and welcome to the MSCA Postdoctoral Fellowships webinar that is hosted by Euraxis and is supported by the MSCA Chinese alum chapter.
Thank you so much for the invitation and introduction. It is a great honor for me to be invited today by Euraxis China to give this welcome speech on behalf of the Marie Curie Alumni Association China chapter. Currently, there are more than 600 active Chinese Marie Curie alumni in this chapter, and there are around 60 executive members in this chapter who work together to help promote the Marie Curie programs in China and help enhance communication between Marie Curie alumni and promote cooperations between Marie Curie actions and other well-known academic organizations at home and abroad. So our chapter had a very close relationship with Euraxis China. And last year, we co-organized many activities, such as the Horizon Europe Young Talent Program Application Webinar, the Marie Curie Postdoctoral Fellowship Application Workshop, and the first annual assembly of Marie Curie Alumni Association China chapter in Munich, Germany. Through these activities, we have worked together to promote the Horizon Europe project and the Marie Curie programs, and our combined efforts have successfully attracted the attention of over 1 million viewers, which greatly increases the visibility of the Marie Curie programs. We have collaborated also together to strengthen the ties between China and Europe. So today's seminar will provide the audience with valuable guidance on how to apply for Marie Curie postdoctoral fellowship. I sincerely hope that these activities will assist the audience in their applications, and I wish this seminar a great success. So thank you so much. Thank
you. On screen. Okay, so the idea is that we give you an overview of what the call means, the eligibility criteria, the funding, and also a little bit of information on the evaluation criteria, how to prepare and how the proposal is structured, and obviously some useful links and resources that are available for all of you. Let me share with you that this presentation includes information coming from DGEAC, the MSCA unit, the European Commission, and also material that has been carried out and provided and delivered by the national contact points in different countries. So for those of you who are not aware with Horizon Europe, this is the main instrument from the European Commission to fund research and innovation. Right now, the framework program that is running is the one called Horizon Europe 2021 to 2027, and that's where the MSCA are included. Therefore, MSCA is part of this bigger program. MSCA is under this excellent pillar, and the idea here is to support frontier research, breakthrough scientific ideas, team up the best researchers in Europe, but also beyond and from all over the world, and try to equip them with the best skills and world-class research infrastructure. So the whole program has a funding of 95 billion euros, and the MSCA budget for the whole period is 6.6 billion euros. So just a short overview of what MSCA is about, the whole program. This is the program that funds research mobility, training, skills, and career development. So you will see that I will give you an overview of the different actions, although we will concentrate on postdoctoral fellowships. And this is open for researchers in all the stages of their career. It is a program that funds bottom-up research, meaning that you as a researcher and you as an institution will decide what kind of topic you wish to apply for, what kind of thematic area and scientific research line you want to see funded. But obviously, it has to be aligned with very relevant European and international priorities, such as the Green Deal, the collaboration with the higher education area. We always talk about mobility in a triple dimension, meaning people have to move to be able to carry out their research. That's international mobility, interdisciplinary mobility, because I mean, it strikes to all of us that different agents from different disciplines need to get together in order to solve current and future challenges for the whole humanity, and also intersectoral, because even though if this program is funded under the excellence part of Horizon Europe, it is true that it's essential to include the non-academic and the private sector in the different projects in order to allow researchers to better understand the needs of society and the needs of the productive sector of the different countries. It also looks to enhance the different attractive working and employment condition of the researchers, meaning the idea is to really level up and have an impact on the institutions that apply for the funds, and also obviously for the researchers themselves and for the career development. These are some figures from the previous framework program called Horizon 2020, where you can see that more than 65,000 researchers were funded throughout the Skłodowska-Curie actions. More than 35% being outside of the EU. And this is the more international part of the framework programs as such, these MSCA actions. You will see that more than 1,000 doctoral programs have also been funded, and that the budget has increased a little bit for these Horizon Europe parts. Some figures also, if we mention the international dimension of the program, show the participation here of the Chinese institution in Horizon 2020. As we do not have much time, we will leave and we will share this information with you so that you can have a look at the number of proposals and contracts that have been signed in Horizon 2020, and so far some data for the already 165 proposals that were submitted by Chinese participants. 27 of them have been main listed and therefore will be benefiting from the actions right now in Horizon. This is the overview of the 5 different actions of MSCA. There, you need to know that there are actions that are collaborative, meaning the institutions do participate in consortia. But what we are going to be talking about today, is the postdoctoral fellowships that aim to support individuals. And this is what we are going to be focusing on today. So what are these MSCA postdoctoral fellowships? Now I'm on slide 10. See that? Yes? Okay. So these are individual fellowships to support excellent postdoctoral researchers. The idea is for a researcher to apply with a host institution and a supervisor in a host institution to apply for this funding. Therefore, the project will be funded, and we will see now there are 2 different modalities. And the idea is to enhance the creative and innovative potential of the researchers who hold a PhD. Again, the projects will enable to advance in the state of the art. Therefore, it is a research and a scientific project, but it also will entitle the researcher to really advance in his or her career. Always embedded in these 3I mobility dimension and being exposed to different research environments, such as the non-academic or in the international environment. This is the timing of the call and the budget. The call has already opened. It opened last April 23rd, and it will close in September 2024, the 11th. Those are important dates for you to be aware of, because the call will close in September, but the results will not be known until possibly the month of February 2025, and the first projects will start in April 2025. But you have time to start the project until almost a year after. And I think this is also important when you plan these kind of projects. So 2 specific types of postdoctoral fellowship. The first one will be the European fellowship that allow for a researcher, a postdoctoral researchers from any kind of nationality in the world to move to Europe and pursue a European fellowship in a European or associated country to Horizon Europe institution for a period of 1 to 2 years. Then the other modality is called the global fellowship. Here you will see, and I will mention that a little bit later in my presentation, that there are some specific restrictions for nationalities. Here, the idea is to have researchers, mainly European or associated country national researchers, being outside of Europe, learning from other peers in an outgoing phase in a third country, and coming back to Europe to bring back the knowledge that they have acquired. You will see also that the indicative budget funds more European fellowship than global fellowship. It is important for you as the researchers to know that you can only apply to one of the two modes here, meaning you have to choose one of the two types of fellowships to apply for. And there is a resubmission restrictions in the sense that if in the 2023 call you have submitted your own proposal, you need to have scored more than 70 of the score to be able to resubmit your proposal this year, understanding that a resubmission includes the same researcher and the same institutions. Now, there are two types of participants. I've talked about a host institution. This is the beneficiary and the institution who received the grants and who will recruit you as a researcher, and it's always based in a member state or an associated country to Horizon Europe. So they will receive the funds and they will recruit you as a researcher. Apart from the beneficiary, there can be an associated partner or associated partners in the project, and those are institutions where the researchers will carry out some sort of research state that are based anywhere in the world, and that will contribute to the action by providing specific training on specific, maybe transferable skills or very technical aspects of the project, and where the researchers can be based for a specific amount of the fellowship. I have been talking about institutions and eligibility and beneficiaries. These are the definitions that the European Commission has for the participating countries. Therefore, there are 27 EU member states, and there is a number of associated countries to the program, to Horizon Europe, who participate in equal conditions. Those are the countries right now. For instance, United Kingdom, since the beginning of 2024, is an associated country to the program Horizon Europe, and therefore you can have a European fellowship hosted in a UK institution. And this I'm saying because we get normally a lot of questions on the participation of UK as a country. And apart from EU member states and associated countries, there we find what we call third countries. For instance, China is a third country, meaning it's any other country outside of the definition of the three previous ones. So we had countries participating, we have also sectors. Remember at the beginning, I say that mobility between sectors is very important. Therefore, the Commission for the Skłodowska-Curie actions has defined two sorts of sectors, the academic ones and the non-academic. Both can be beneficiaries of the actions. It's true that many of the grants you will see are delivered and are taking place in the academic sector, meaning higher education establishment, not-profit research organizations, and European research interest organizations, universities, research centers, etc. But also the non-academic sector can participate. This, by definitions, is any type of institutions outside of academia where a researcher can also carry out his or her career, meaning an industry, being SME, also large industry, a governmental institution, an NGO, an industry, hospital, a museum, etc., etc. They can also be part of the fellowships. We mentioned at the beginning that MSCA is a bottom-up program. This means that the researchers will decide what they want to see funded. Obviously, there is an order, and this means that you will have to apply to one of 8 scientific panels. You see the panels here, and you also see a little bit of information on the 2022 submissions concerning and regarding the different scientific panels. So the way it works is that the budget is allocated to the different scientific panels depending on the number of proposals that are received. Here you will see that normally, and that's a trend, that is maintained throughout the years. There's a lot of projects that are funding on the social sciences, life project, but also engineering, chemistry, and physics. The most, I would say, little panels will be mathematics and economics. But all of these can be funded. So how does it work? We've talked about individual project, but here there are different actors involved in the preparation and the implementation of the project. You have the beneficiary, the host institution that is located in Europe that will receive you as a researcher, train you and recruit you. Then you have, as mentioned, this institution can be either from academia or from the non-academic work. And you can have in the fellowship, for instance, an associated partner. If you as a researcher decide that within the 1 or 2 or 3 years of your project, need to do a research stage somewhere else to enrich your project. And then I talk about researchers. Why do I say this in plural? Because we have the researcher who has the idea, such as Dr. Ren Bin, who will be explaining here is his experience, but we also have the supervisor at the institution where the researcher is going to be recruited. And all of them play a very important role in the preparation and the implementation of the project, meaning this is much more than a research project. It's a project where you will be able as a researcher to advance and to improve your scientific skills, but you will also be able to be trained and acquire new complementary skills, what we call soft skills, that will allow you to have really more skills to be able to valorize and transfer your research results to the world and to the society. So what is important is this knowledge exchange and transfer of knowledge between the researcher, the supervision, and the institution. And this is the trio that needs to be taken into account when preparing the project. What we have seen from previous projects is that the most successful one really imply and includes this collaboration, previous collaboration between the different actors. Be sure to tackle the needs of the project to the researcher needs also. That's essential. What about the eligibility of researcher? How does it work? So in order to be able for you to see if you can apply to these kind of grants, you need to see your research experience and your mobility rules. If you complied with these 2 criteria, always at the end of the call opening, meaning the call deadline, it's 11th of September 2024. You need to see if you comply with these criteria. Research experience, you need to be a researcher in a position of your PhD by the call deadline. There are obviously exceptions. I'm not going to go into details, but you can see them, for instance, timing for paternity and maternity leave, career breaks, or time you do not have spent doing research will be counted. And those exceptions are taken into account. There's a guideline and a self-assessment tool for you to be able to, if you're eligible, on the European Commission portals, funding tenders portal website. What about the mobility rule? Again, we mentioned this is a mobility program. Therefore, the researcher who wants to apply for a European fellowship, for instance, in Spain, the person cannot have lived or resided in Spain for more than 1 year previous in the 3 years previous to the call date. Okay, that will be the general mobility rule. The 2 types I mentioned of projects, just to remind them, the European fellowships will allow you to carry out your research in Europe. There is no restriction on nationality whatsoever. You have to comply with the mobility rule, have not more than 8 years of research experience by the call deadline, taking into account your exceptions. The project will last from 1 to 2 years, and it's possible to be, within the project to have secondments or to do a non-academic placement. I will explain what this is about. For the global fellowship, the project is a little bit different. It can last from 2 to 3 years with an outgoing phase outside of Europe. This is where the projects start, and a final phase in Europe to really transfer all the knowledge that has been gained outside of Europe. This is open only to European researchers, national and associated country member states, associated countries to Horizon Europe, or to long-term residents. Meaning, if at some point of your research career you have lived and studied and carried out your research in Europe for a consecutive 5 years, you might be able to apply for this. The mobility rule here will apply to the third country where the project starts, okay? Not in Europe. You have to comply with mobility rule in the outgoing phase country where you pretend to do your fellowship, start your fellowship. So what are these terms of secondments and non-academic placements? Basically, they're here to enrich your project. And they're not compulsory, but you can carry them out if you think this is a good idea and this will give an added value to your project. A secondment has to be aligned with the research objectives, and it will enhance this, again, triple I dimension. It will add value and it will impact on the result. It can be done anytime during the project for the European fellowships. For the global fellowships, it can be done during the outgoing fellowship in the third countries, and the secondments can be divided. It doesn't have to be one specific research stay in a specific institution at one time. It can be divided and split into different states. It can be done anywhere in the world and in any sector, and there's a maximum of 1/3 of the duration. What is the non-academic placement? This is a little bit different because the idea is to try to motivate, enhance, and incentivize the participation of the non-academic sector in the projects. The idea here is to promote the career move between sectors, meaning if you feel that at some point you see yourself as a researcher outside of academia and you want to explore specifically the possibility to do so by stimulated innovation and knowledge transfer, you can do that at the end of your fellowship, only in Europe and only in the non-academic sector, up to 6 months after your proposal is finished. Now, what is important is this non-academic placement, as well as secondment, have to be part of the project. They have to be integrated in it because they will be evaluated as such. Then, what about the funding and the evaluation criteria? These MSCA actions are 100% funded on a base of the unit cost contributions. This means that you as a researchers will be recruited and will receiving some allowances per month. What you see there on the screen, it's 2 different parts. One for the recruited researchers and one concerning or allocated to the contributions to the project. All of these funds are received by the beneficiary, the host institution, who will recruit you, provide you your salary, and also manage the project. To manage the project, you can see to the right-hand side of the slides that you will have research, training, and networking contribution monthly to your project. This will allow you to invite experts, to prepare and organize webinars, to do these secondments if you think this is important, to buy material for the lab, all that has to do with research, networking, and training expenses. You will receive a living allowance and a mobility allowance and a family allowance if applicable. And there are 2 other concepts there called special needs allowance and long-term leave allowance that are requested upon needs. But what you will always receive is the living and the mobility allowance. These allowances are expressed in euros. The living allowance is adapted to the country of your destination with the country coefficient factor. And this is just for you an example to know what, for instance, a European fellowship in Spain for 2 years can give you as an earning. Meaning you have the possibility of being 2 years in Spain. You will be receiving monthly these installments, and you just have to multiply the type of allowance by the number of months. This is the way the budget is taken into consideration and is automatically done by the application system. When it comes to award criteria, you need to take into consideration that you will be evaluated against 3 criteria: excellence, impact, and implementation. Without going into details, you see that there's a weight for each of them. 50% goes to excellence, where the project's research and innovative objectives, as well as the methodology, how you are doing the activities and what are the activities and the methodology that has to be excellent will be carried out, and how the supervision will be done, the training that you will receive, and this two-way of transfers between the supervisory institution and researchers. The idea here is to support your professional career. So you have to show that you are the researchers that can carry out these activities. The impact will not only measure the impact on your research career as such, but will also measure the impact and outcomes concerning scientific, societal, and economic impacts. Of course, the implementation will relate to how the project is being carried out, the resources, the institution, the risks that you have. If you have any risk, there's always risks in life projects, and how will you handle them? To prepare the proposal, just to let you know that everything is done online in the Funded Internals Opportunities portal. The structure, it's a part A that it's more administrative regarding budget, participants, and general information. And part B, and that's the one that you really need to work a lot on, because this is your technical proposal. You need to convince the evaluator that your proposal is excellent, has an impact, and will be well carried out in 10 pages, okay? Those are the ones that you see there. Again, you have to refer to the Funded Internals Opportunities portal. This is the official portal where the Commission includes all the calls, all the documentations, and also all the documents that you need to read very carefully before applying to the grant. What I want to finish with is with the useful link and resources, because you're not on your own. I know there's a lot of information delivered right now in the last 25 minutes, but there's also a lot of people, support, and resources for you to understand what you have to write, how you have to write it. Of course, go to your official documents. Also know that you have national contact points in the destination country that can support you. Euraxis is there to support you, and also to let you know, inform you about possible hosting offers if you don't have yet a host, or if you don't know where exactly you want to pursue your research. There's a hosting offer section in Euraxis portal, very useful for that. And you have handbooks produced for your support. And obviously the Euraxis Worldwide China will be my last mention as a support also for us. Thank you very much.
I'm Christina, and I'm gonna to share about my experience as a Marie Curie Fellow, especially the application experience. Given that most of the attendance will be based in mainland China and use the Chinese language, but there might be also a few that are based in Europe and would like to explore China as a global fellow. This presentation will be, I'll use English as a language when I speak, but the slides will be bilingual. So the topic for today, from me, at least to my understanding of what I would like to show, would be how did I decide to do the application of the MSCA. So first of all, I have a research story. So specifically for my case, I would like to image the other planets that are surrounding other stars. You can imagine it as imaging our next home, but orbiting other stars when you are looking at the sky at night. So this movie over here is a movie that has 4 giant planets that are orbiting the star known as HR 8799. And that is the reason why I joined the field since 2014. By that time, there weren't such a movie. And after almost a decade, and now we can look at the planets orbiting around their stars, their central star. So can we get another Earth, which is a habitable world for us? And what are we going to use to reach this goal of getting another exoplanet or exo-Earth? So the tools that I use are mainly associated with 2 space-based telescopes. And one is Hubble And I believe most of us have seen a lot of very good Hubble images over our lifetime, because Hubble was launched in the early 90s, and it just passed its 30-some years old. And so whatever researchers or astronomers have already found with the Hubble Space Telescope is currently being followed up by the James Webb Space Telescope, which was launched on the Christmas Day of 2021. And so this is the basic research background that I use. And so what is the question that I would like to answer? So the limit is that, so the plot over here is showing the mass of discovered planets, and as a function of how far are they separated from their central star. And you can see that our Earth is over here, and these yellow symbols are our solar system planets. And you can see that there is a huge contrast between the planets that are already discovered and characterized with our own solar system. So this is not because that our solar system is extremely unique, but also because that our existing methods are not able to tell whether there is another solar system just because of instrument limitations. And these instruments are from the previous slide, which are composed of not just Hubble, James Webb, and a bunch of other research telescopes. And from the movie that I showed in the first slide, they are directly imaged by the telescopes. However, they are over here. And so in comparison with some 5,000 planets that are discovered, only 25-ish are discovered using images. And pictures speak louder than words. And we want to image another Earth to see if they're habitable or using other evidences. So since this field has already been developed since 1995, when people found the first exoplanets around a sun-like star, and this field has already obtained the 1 Nobel Prize in 2019 or 2020. So our goal is to image the next Earth, but given that this field is already some 30 years old, there is actually a lot of data. But the problem is that with the high quality data for many other methods, for direct imaging, there is not a very good method, or there has not been very good method to image these planets. So we want to image another Earth, not just from instrument design, but also from methods. So why did I decide to do this field? And first of all, because Mercury, the Mercury program is a mobility program. As Christina has said, it's not just bringing Europeans and non-Europeans to other countries in Europe, but also to bring people outside Europe, but also to bring people from Europe to other side of the world. And this is my personal mobility history. I got my bachelor's degree in physics, as well as in mathematical statistics in Xiamen University. Then I started doing my PhD in the Johns Hopkins University in the US. And previously, you guys probably have not heard about that university, but I bet everyone, especially after COVID, knows that university because we published our university published the COVID stats for you every day. So after me graduated in 2019, I received an offer to go to Caltech to perform my postdoc study or research in there, but then that's when COVID happened. So a lot of stuff have already been paused. So when I received an email in 2021 from my current Mercury host on whether would I like to work in Europe, based on my personal history, I said yes without any hesitation. So, and that is when I heard about the Marie Curie program. Sorry for being too ignorant before. And so then we did 2 summations, and I'll talk to you about that later. And the reason why we did 2 summations is, of course, we failed the first summation, but we are not low enough to reach 70% that we can do another summation. So I'm currently based in southern France, or in French, it's Sud France. And here is what I learned during our 2 summations. The first thing, and to both my faculty host and myself, actually we discussed about this slide. The most important thing for us, and I hope that can also be applicable, is that the research between your host and yourself has to be complementary to each other. And so for my host, she knows what is the state-of-the-art studies in planetary systems as well as exoplanetary systems. And she has a vision for what the next generation research that is imminent would be. And she also uses different combinations of instruments or approaches to study planet formation. But what I did, or what my expertise would instead be the first slide, I do planet imaging. And I work on data analysis methods, and I'm super familiar with exoplanet imagers such as the Hubble Space Telescope. And in fact, the Hubble Space Telescope and James Webb Space Telescope's science operational centers are in Baltimore. And that is the decision why I decided to go to Baltimore to study the state-of-the-art astronomy, data analysis, and science. So my first takeaway is that you have to figure out a way that the research is complementary to each other. I will add the exoplanet imaging aspect to my host's research arsenal, and what she in return will give me a better vision of what the field would be. And another thing that we realized is that it is not a research-only program. It is actually focusing more on research development. So what you, as a PhD degree holder, and I think that must be the requirements for Marie Curie, the most basic thing is that you have already garnered the technical expertise that you have, and otherwise I don't think we would be able to get a PhD. And the second thing is that the general expectation for a PhD awardee is that you are currently an independent researcher. And some better parts is that over the course of your PhD studies, you might have already received some advising experience. However, the goal for Marie Curie, again, it's my understanding is that by bringing you to a more diverse team, you will be more familiar with how to work with people that are in the same general field as you, but not in the exact small niche as you're working on. And then you will be able to understand the general approach for doing research in your field. And the ultimate goal, this is what I concluded with my host, is that this program aims to train you as a leader in your research area, as well as identifying new frontiers for the research, which is way different from the basic, or if you are lucky, the very good independent research that you conduct right after your PhD. So the other thing that we realized that I realized is that there are actually 2 kinds of resumes. So if you go to people's websites, you might find that they're firmly listing what they have ever done over the course of their life. And it is so boring that, to be honest, no one cares. And as a result, if you're going to submit a 5-page resume or CV following that style, nobody will give you a beep. So in terms of the Marie Curie resume or CV, you have to come up with a unified story of why did you do this? Of course, most of us would say that, oh yeah, my advisor told me to do this over the past 5 years in the States or in China, or my advisor told me to do this over the past 3 years in Europe. But you have to come up with a unified story on how to approach this system, this problem or this question in at least in your personal niche of research. And again, after that story, we should never come up with boring lists. To fill in this unified story, the best part is that if you can summarize your research publications to different small groups, tackling the big question from different perspectives. For astronomy, you can probably talk about what are the instrumentation perspective things that have already done for tackling the problem, and what are the data reduction or data analysis method that I have already done for this problem, and what are the science publications that I've already done for the program, for this problem. And you can also even mention some very good comments from those who are citing you, as well as, again, the citation matrix statistics of your paper, of your papers, or of your groups of papers. So, okay, then I think this is probably the last thing that I would like to talk about, and that is about how to write the proposal. So it has to be impeccable at first glance. And based on my experience, you have to show persistence. So when we did the first submission in 2021, my Marie Curie host and I, we didn't have knowledge about how to do that, because she is also not an extremely senior professor, because she is only 10 years above me in terms of academic experience. So in that case, we only had limited help from the outside. And if you go to the previous slides that I talked about, that's all I was talking about the downsides for the application. And trust me, I was following the exact do not do's in the previous slides. So we didn't know what the others will view us, because we are from we were still, or I was narrow-minded to tell, okay, we're doing cool things, but we have to understand that it is not. So for example, if I'm studying astronomy but we're going to be evaluated by physicists. So we not only want our stuff to be understood by astronomers, but also by the general physics. So we were not selected, and our score was decent. But there are also something that so the good thing for Marie Curie evaluation is that they will provide you feedback. And so so we had a small sentence saying that we're going to get this new data, and we're going to use this data to answer this question. And we had a very big backslash. Their comment was like, yeah, well, we do have astronomers in our evaluation panel, and we know that you guys have to apply for new data, which is not guaranteed. And the proposed approach is risky. And I think that is probably the biggest factor that shut us down, or in addition to the don't do's in the previous slides. So and that is when we did it, when I was still in the States, and we still didn't know how to play with the rules, because my Marie Curie host was also in the Americas in the past few years, especially during COVID. So we didn't know how to play by the rules. Okay, then we decided to do another submission in 2022 summer. And in this case, the university provided help. And they even offered access to professional coaches about, hey, what are they expecting? And you have to let the reviewers to understand the importance. We know, and as a current awardee, and I know our our audience know how cool the stuff that they are doing. But again, we have to communicate to even let your grandma understand why it is so sick that they should just, the committee will just say, shut up and take my money. So we fixed the problems. And in terms of the new data, so my advisor is a star in the field. And we just said, okay, although Binran himself, when he writes proposals, would probably not get the proposals request, the proposal or data set obtained, my host is so famous and she has so much access to different resources that she will be able to replace some of her approved targets to my objects of interest. And then the evaluation came back and they said, looks good. And the best part is that the researcher is already in the team. And so there will be a very good synthesis between the advisor or the host and the researcher. So, so the last thing that I like to say is that do not give up. So I do have a few friends who were not selected in the very first round, but they finally got selected into the shortlist and got the grant. So it might take you like 3 or half a year to get the results, but as long as if you are not selected, but if they tell you that you are in the shortlist, I don't remember the full name of that list, but I think it's called reserve list. If they put you in the reserve list, cross your fingers and get ready to celebrate, because all of those that I know that are in the reserve list got it in the subsequent summer. So, and again, I'm going to talk about the story again. We want to get Exo-Earth or our new home if the local creatures allow us to do that by 2050. And the Mercury program is a training program, and we should provide two-way knowledge, and it is a focus on two-way knowledge transfer as well as leadership development. And now I welcome your questions.
Thank you for the very energetic presentation. We do have quite a few questions in the Q&A box. I suggest that Christina and Renbin, you volunteer which questions you would like to answer, and we just take them one at a time.
Okay, maybe if that's okay with you, I can take the ones related to eligibility because there are some of them, and I can just respond one by one as quick as possible because I know we're kind of a little bit delayed. So concerning the mobility rule, the first one, there's a person mentioning that he or she has been in Germany, August 2023. Obviously, as I mentioned, you need to comply with the 1 year maximum being in the country in the previous 3 months before the call deadline. The call deadline is 11 September 2024. So in this case, you mentioned that you have been out of the country for a month vacation. This is very tight, okay? Normally it's more than a year that you've been in Germany. You need to check with your host institution in Germany and see what kind of documents you can provide them with. The commission, this is important. The commission, when you submit a proposal, they will not ask you for any kind of proof of what you're saying, okay? But the institution that will recruit you will, to ensure that you comply with the mobility. Check with the institution because I know vacation doesn't count, but you are leaving the country already. So it may not be deduced from the 13 months that you're already in Germany. That's kind of tight concerning eligibility. So the word templates, you have to open the proposal. When you're in the Funding and Tenders Opportunities portal, you have to do the submission to be able to download a text, an RTF or a Word document, a template, okay? What you have right now on the open portal is all the templates in PDF normally, but for you to be able to write the proper template, you have to submit the proposal for European or global fellowship. That's important. What is important also is please always refer to the funding and tenders portals. You can find a template from a colleague of yours that maybe submitted a proposal last year and you think it's the same one. Things change. So please just use the one that it's in the funding and tender opportunities portal.
And I think that is also a question for my field, because for astronomers, a lot of physicists, they use a lot of LaTeX for their paper writing. But this is exactly the thing that I'd like to mention. So if you are going to have a coach, they're 100% sure not from astronomy. And in this case, you have to use Word to do your proposal. In this way can they do the comments and feedback to you. So although I love LaTeX, but to reduce the difficulty in communication, I can only say that we have to use Word.
Thank you. A UK university host for 2 years and a university in Australia for a secondment of 6 months, absolutely possible. Yes, that's what we mentioned as an added value for the project. You can do so. And very, very quickly, for the resubmission, the 1-year mobility rule is applied. Yes, exactly. You need to comply the next year. If you resubmit again, you need to comply with the mobility rule and the research experience rule that year too. Okay. Maybe I let also Dr. Bean, there's some there concerning your fields on the number of paper and quality.
Okay, I'll start answering the questions like by the order that I see them. So the first question is the chance of success in fellowship application. I think to be honest, I don't know. Between my 2 applications, I don't think there is any change in terms of my first authored papers. But I think you should either have very good publications that shows that you are leader of research in your field, or you have a lot of publications and people will definitely trust you that you are a leader in the field. So it's not the number that matters, it's a quality. And in terms of quality, that is difficult to say. So I think the most important thing is that the story is the king. And so in terms of the timeline of the application, note the deadline will be in September-ish. And if you're coming to Europe, and an unfortunate fact is that Europeans will take their summer off, and it's primarily in August. So if you want to get your proposal ready and be reviewed not just by your host, and if there is a coach provided by your host institution, then you probably have to get everything done by the end of July. And given that we're at the end of June, we're at the end of the May, I guess you have 2 months-ish to come up with a proposal. But remember, you have to chat with your faculty host about the proposal, because it is a 2-way knowledge transfer. So I remember for the proposal, it is 10 pages, but to be honest, only 2 pages are focused on the science, and the rest of the pages are all based on how good the researcher is, how good the faculty is, and what is the training plan for the researcher, and how do we guarantee the success of this training program, and what knowledge can they mutually give to each other.
Yes, and you were very correct in mentioning that you did during your presentation the supports. The institutions normally have specific departments, but they can be called European office or European grants offices, and they will be able to support you in your writing and your preparation of the proposal, but they need to be contacted early enough in the process to be able to get back to you and give you their comments. That's important. Just concerning resubmission, yes, resubmission has to include the same host institution, or if it's a global fellowship, the same associated partner in the third country too. If not, it's not considered as a resubmission. I think there's also one for you there concerning preliminary results, I think.
So I'm scrolling over the questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll answer the questions that I understand the meaning like at first glance. So again, this is how to deliver information effectively. So this question from Zimei asked that I have already received a postdoc offer, which includes salary. Can I still apply for the MSCA? And that is my experience. That is what happened to me. And trust me, the salary is way higher. So everybody should fight for that. And yes, you can apply for MSCA as long as that you, when at the time of the deadline, you haven't stayed in this country for over 12 months. And for this question on some examples about how to make the CV an interesting story, I think that is a goal for the application. You have to chat with your faculty host instead of coming up with the resume yourself. And if you are coming to Europe, and it is highly possible that the institution that you are getting in will have already hosted several ERC successful ERC grantees. ERC is European Research Council grant, and it is similar as the Qingqian or Qianren in China. And there, I got how to write this CV from my host, who is a ERC consolidator grantee. Okay, let me continue on the questions.
Yeah, there are a lot of them. I mean, I'm sure we can maybe respond even some of them afterwards, because we don't want to be taking. I mean, Carlis is the boss, so he let us know if we can continue or not. But I think I just wanted to stress on a couple of points that you as beneficiary of a grant has already pointed out. I think they're very, very important. One is persistency. I mean, you applied once, but then you learned from the mistakes or the weaknesses that the evaluators showed you, and you applied for the second time after showing your proposal to the European offices, to the supervisor that you have been very working with. I think the match, and that was also a question on that you mentioned, between you and your supervisor is really relevant, and it has to be seen in the proposal. You don't have to have a perfect CV, and the supervisor doesn't have to have a perfect CV, but they need to match and complement each other when doing the activities that are to be implemented by you as a researcher in the project. And I liked very much the way you mentioned that the CV is important. It's not only about listing your publications or prizes that you receive, but it is about explaining that you are the right person to carry out the activities that you mentioned. And it means, for instance, that you really have to enhance your good points. Obviously, you always have a competitive CV to apply for these kind of grants, but try to make the best out of it and create a story to explain that obviously you have training needs that will be given to you during the project, but you are the one that can carry out these activities. And the one very important thing also, people who are going to be evaluating these proposals, it's a panel of 3 members. Not all of them are specialists in your research line, and this is essential. And I know sometimes when we say this, when I used to be an NCP and I said this, it is a little bit about marketing too, meaning you have to sell your science. And I know you're agreeing, you have to sell your science. Obviously, you have to be very, very rigorous and very accurate, but you also have to make this attractive for the readers, because these people might have 10 to 15 more proposals to read, and yours need to stand out in very specific ways.
And I'm gonna answer this question about different fellowships. Yes, you can apply for fellowships simultaneously, and once you get, and then from those that I know, you can negotiate about. Of course, you cannot be paid at the same time, but you can probably delay the start time of one proposal. One fellowship to 1 or 2 years later, if they allow that, or for the first fellowship, you can also end it earlier. For example, although they awarded you a 2-year or a 3-year fellowship, you can say, "Oh yeah, this looks good after 1 year, but I'd like to explore more opportunities. So goodbye and thank you, and I'm gonna take this on."
Or you can ask for a part-time fellowship also, if that allows you to carry out another different activity, research activity. That's feasible also at implementation part.
The questions just keep on coming, but we need to be considerate of time. I would like to limit remaining questions to 1 or maximum 2 answers per speaker. Look at questions that you find most interesting or perhaps for the widest relevance. I would also like to invite Dr. Van Moa, if you think there's a question that you would like to answer, please pitch in. But yes, a few more questions and then we're done for the day.
Okay, I'll try to answer one question about the match between a supervisor and an applicant. So again, you have to contact the supervisor. It is the best if you have already known the host, and if you don't know her or him, it's the best if he or she knows your research result, and then you can talk about potential ideas and what are you guys wanting to do as a team. So it's not a one-to-one advisorship. There's no like academic ladder between you two. You're doing two-way transfer of knowledge. They're giving you their experience and you're giving them your expertise.
Okay, we like to take one that is concerning. Some of them are related to the years of experience, the 8 years of research experience. And so one important thing, you need to have your PhD defended by the time of the cut line. If this is not happening, you will not be eligible. Okay, that's for you to bear in mind, because this is different from Horizon 2020, where there was the possibility. Here, Horizon Europe is very clear. You need to have your PhD. How is this 8 years experience counted? Once you have your PhD, if you start doing research, then the number of years doing research will start counting. Obviously, if you have had a maternity or paternity leave or a career break because you're doing a sabbatical year or working outside of academia, outside of research, these years will not pile up to the 8 years experience. So this is what you need to know. You can have maybe obtained your PhD 12 years ago, but if you haven't really been doing research for 5-6 years, you will be eligible. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, maybe I will answer one question. So I saw that there is a researcher asked, can UK institutions host Chinese fellowships? The answer is yes. So, but the question, because before Brexit, UK is part of European Union, and it's the same as the other European countries. So it can host fellowships, and the European Union will give funding to them. But after Brexit, there is a transition period. So in this period, according to my experience, so the people will still apply via the MSCA channel, but at last the UKRI, which is a UK-based research institution, will give the funding to the researcher. But I think recently there is a new guideline come. The UK rejoined this MSCA family, and later on, so UK can still be as a host as other European Union countries, and also it's also because in our Marie Curie alumni associations, there's also a discussion about whether UK-based researchers can be regarded as alumnus. So there is still negotiations, but I hope there will be positive answers that this UK-based researchers will be regarded also as this alumnus. Yeah. Okay.
Indeed, that's correct.
Yep.
Since 2024 January, UK is now associated to the Horizon Europe program, so you can apply with the UK institution, no problem, to host a European fellowship.
And with that, thank you to the speakers for this very interesting and engaging presentation and a very lively discussion at the end of it. I want to thank you, the MSCA Alumni Association China chapter, for supporting this event. And because today is China's Science and Technology Workers' Days, I would also like to celebrate and wish everyone on this webinar a very happy Science and Technology Workers' Day. Jia Kuai Le. Thank you for your attention and see you soon. Good luck with your applications.